Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the processional.
Good afternoon. Please be seated. Welcome to the University of Texas at Dallas. I'm Juan Gonzalez, and as Graduate Dean, it is my honor to welcome all of you, doctoral candidates, faculty mentors, family, and friends, to this very special doctoral hooding ceremony. Doctoral candidates, you have achieved a major milestone Today, you move from being our students to being our colleagues. This is a tremendous accomplishment, and I congratulate you on it. You have achieved this milestone not only because of your intellectual talent, but because in the face of all of life's obstacles, you have stayed determined and completed an important piece of original research. You show faith in yourselves and in the importance of your ideas. You exercise self-discipline, made personal sacrifices, and your degree is a true recognition of this perseverance. It's been a privilege to be part of that academic journey to date, and I wish you the very best in your future endeavors. It is now my pleasure to call our president, Dr. Richard Benson, to the podium to add his words of welcome.
Thank you. So thank you, Dean Gonzalez, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to UT Dallas. Before I turn my attention to the graduates, I want to acknowledge the work of my faculty colleagues. Thank you for all that you have done as teachers and mentors of our UTD students. And now to our doctoral graduates. You passed exams, spent long hours conducting research, and completed dissertations. And now, as a result, you know more about the topic of your dissertation than anybody else in the world. And that, in my opinion, is the most beautiful and satisfying return on your investment. Just as impressive, though, is that you completed your studies during one of the most uncertain times in our history. So let me simply say, job well done. You should be proud, and we certainly are proud of you. Today is also an opportunity to publicly acknowledge the family and friends who helped make this milestone possible. So graduates, please join me in thanking these very important people. They certainly share in your accomplishments. So thank you all. More than 50 years ago, our university was founded by the pioneers of Texas Instruments. One of them, J. Eric Johnson, who later served as mayor of Dallas, had a quote, which has attracted my attention and my interest. And this is what former Mayor Johnson said: "We must dream no small dreams. We must envision great, ambitious goals." And without a doubt, the ability to dream big is a part of your legacy as a graduate of UT Dallas. Collectively, you have made your communities better, healthier, safer, happier, and more manageable. And your work is also the foundation for future scholarship that will lead to countless other innovations. In other words, your work at UT Dallas will live on. Graduates, your scholarly pursuits have led to this day and this moment when you will receive the academic hood that signifies your accomplishment, a great, ambitious goal. The ceremony marks the intersection of the journeys you are completing and the one that you are about to begin. Wherever you go next, you will bring with you the knowledge, the skills, the strength of character that were nurtured here. Our world needs your hearts as well as your minds. So finally, let me express my gratitude. Thank you for choosing UT Dallas for your graduate studies. Thank you for helping our faculty members become better scholars themselves. And thank you in advance for representing the very best of UT Dallas throughout your careers. And welcome to the community of scholars. And now, I return the podium to Provost Inga Musselman.
Thank you, President Benson, and good afternoon, graduates. Until today, you have been our students, and now you are our colleagues. Think about that for a second. Think about what an accomplishment that is. Your development as a scholar is just one of the reasons why this is a day of celebration for our esteemed faculty, and indeed, the entire UT Dallas community. First, we applaud your talent. You don't reach the level of education you have attained without knowing your subject matter inside and out. Second, we acknowledge your exceptional mastery of an academic field. Through scholarship, research, and creative endeavors, you have made original contributions to human knowledge. And finally, we admire your commitment and perseverance despite the many sacrifices earning a doctorate demands. Your family, friends, and mentors deserve to be commended too. Your sacrifice often became their sacrifice. As you probably know, UT Dallas is a Tier 1 research institution, which means it is one of the preeminent universities of innovation and entrepreneurship in the United States. We know research. We understand it. Many of us on this stage and in our faculty have done it for years and continue to do so today. Thus, we also know one of the key characteristics of doctoral research is uncertainty. Throughout your studies, you have learned how to plan and execute experiments, as well as how to critically analyze data and primary sources. As you move forward in your careers and in your lives, I urge you to continue the habits you have mastered during this journey. But I'll take it one step further. I urge you to pursue a healthy curiosity about all subjects, not just the ones in your field of expertise. But before you head down whatever path you choose, stop and think about what you have accomplished. Celebrate this day. Circle it on the calendar of your life. It is never to be forgotten. Congratulations. I would now like to introduce the stage party, and I'll ask each member to stand as called and remain standing. First, our deans. Dr. Niels Romer, Dean of the Harry W. Bass Jr. School of Arts, Humanities, and Technology. Dr. Margaret Owen, Interim Dean of Behavioral and Brain Sciences. Dr. Jennifer Holmes, Dean of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences. Dr. Stephanie Adams, Dean of the Eric Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science. Dr. Tanya Wissinger, Interim Dean of Interdisciplinary Studies. Dr. Hassan Perkul, Dean of the Naveen Jindal School of Management. And Dr. Michael Bewer, Associate Dean, standing in for Dr. David Heinemann, Dean of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. Next, I'll introduce the members of the Graduate Council. Dr. Shiley Warren, Associate Dean, School of Arts, Humanities, and Technology. Dr. Shayla Holub, Department Head, standing in for Dr. Robert Stillman, Associate Dean of Behavioral and Brain Sciences. Dr. Doyoon Kim, Associate Dean, School of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences. Dr. Porus Balsara, Vice Dean, Eric Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science. Already standing is Dr. Tanya Wissinger, Interim Dean of Interdisciplinary Studies. Dr. Varghese Jacob, Vice Dean, Dean of the Naveen Jindal School of Management. Dr. Pankaj Chowdhury, Associate Dean, School of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. And finally, other members of the stage party include Dr. Michael Kesden, Speaker of the Faculty Senate, and Dr. Teresa Towner, Professor in the School of Arts, Humanities, and Technology, and our orator this afternoon. So I would now like to invite Dr. Gonzalez back to the podium to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Musselman. It is my pleasure to invite Dr. Jennifer Holmes, the Dean of the School of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences, to introduce the hooting speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Gonzalez. And oh boy, what did we do here to the, here we go. You changed it, actually. All right, we changed it. Gotta find this. It's been a heck of a summer. All right, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce my good friend and advisory board member, Dr. Harold Gross. He's a founder and president of Market Research Answers, Incorporated, a provider of qualitative and quantitative market research services. So since 2009, his firm has served Fortune 500s and small and medium-sized enterprises in North America and the Western EU countries across a broad range of industries and product service categories. He's on my advisory council for the School of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences, and he's also a member of both the DFW Association for Business Economics and the National Association for Business Economics. Previously, he held positions with American Airlines in finance, operations planning, and marketing planning. Before joining American in 1997, he spent 8 years at the University of North Texas as an associate professor of applied economics and associate director of UNT's Center for Economic Development and Research. From 1985 to 89, he was associate director of Southern Methodist University's Center for Enterprising, a business, economic, and public policy research center in SMU's Cox School of Business. He began his career in 1983 as an economist with the John Gray Institute, where he focused on economic development and labor management relations. He received his PhD in political economy in 1984 from UTD after completing his BS in business and public administration from UTD's School of Management in 1981. We're fortunate to have him back with us working to develop a class on airline economics and some other initiatives that are critical for the school. So it is my pleasure to introduce him to the podium.
First of all, thank you, Drs. Gonzalez and Holmes, for the invitation to participate in this ceremony honoring the university's newest PhD graduates. It's a privilege to be here to celebrate with all of you. And to the new graduates, congratulations. I understand firsthand what you've gone through to reach this point, and I admire your determination and discipline. I know that your family and friends who are here to celebrate are very proud of your accomplishment, as they should be. I encourage you to not let this be the end of your involvement with UTD. After I graduated with my PhD in political economy, I didn't have any contact with UTD for a very long time until I reached out to Dean Holmes early last year to introduce myself and offer my support for her efforts on behalf of the School of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences. She was kind enough to respond. We met for lunch, and I've since gotten involved, which I've enjoyed and found to be very rewarding. There wasn't any particular reason that I stayed away from UTD. I truly enjoyed my time as a doctoral student. I was supported in my effort by a terrific faculty to whom I remain very appreciative. I simply became very focused on my career, and UTD dropped off of my radar. As you move forward with your career, try to find some time and ways to remain involved with this university. I'm sure it will benefit you personally and may even help you professionally. More importantly, it will help UTD, which has come a long way since I was here and will only continue to grow in size and stature, if for no other reason than it's surfing a giant economic wave. I want you to consider 3 of the following points. Dallas-Fort Worth currently has the 4th largest population in the U.S. and is adding over 100,000 new residents each year, mainly from in-migration. 23 Fortune 500s are headquartered here, including the largest and 4th largest airlines in the world. And the area continues to attract headquarters relocations from other parts of the U.S. Regional economic output is currently about $600 billion per year, on par with Sweden, one of the EU's more developed economies. So stay involved with UTD to help the school take full advantage of these positive trends. Also know that your PhD has a lot of value outside of academia. In fact, most of those I know with PhDs have built terrific careers in the corporate world, the public sector, or nonprofits. Being a professor, teaching and conducting research is a satisfying and rewarding career. But there are many other options where your knowledge and skills will be appreciated. A big part of my early career was in the academic world, almost 15 years combined at SMU's Cox School of Business and the University of North Texas, before I felt the urge to see what else was out there. I almost became chief economist at a large insurer, but ultimately declined their offer because my wife and I decided we didn't want to leave Dallas for San Antonio. I had another offer from a large commercial real estate firm, but decided against that because I deemed it too risky, since at that time Dallas and other markets across the region were glutted with office buildings and banks were struggling with non-performing real estate loans. When I did finally make the change, it was to join American Airlines, and I was not out of place there because I had a PhD instead of an MBA. There were, and still are, a lot of people in the headquarters building with PhDs in disciplines like economics, statistics, industrial engineering, operations research, and computer science. So don't be afraid to explore options that may be available to you. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about talking, and more specifically, how we talk to each other. I believe that for most of us, talking is kind of like breathing. We do it reflexively, without really thinking about it. I doubt that very many people spend much or even any time thinking about the dynamics of a conversation. What makes a conversation good? What's a conversation killer? I think about those things because conversation is very central to what I do. For the past 15 years, I've operated a market research firm that conducts a lot of qualitative research studies for companies that sell products and services to other companies. Most of my clients are Fortune 500s, along with a handful of small and medium-sized businesses. They represent a broad range of industries: aerospace, commercial construction, commercial food service equipment, healthcare, and others. The studies I conduct for them always concern product or service innovations they believe may solve a problem for other commercial markets. And my role is to help them understand whether they're onto something or not. Most studies are comprised of 2 to 3 dozen depth interviews, each usually about an hour in length, via phone or video conference. And the respondents are usually senior executives or specialists of some kind: commercial architects, engineers, hospital administrators, plant managers, and so on. I'll do anywhere from a dozen to a dozen and a half of these studies each year. So in the past decade, I've probably spent 7,000 to 8,000 hours worth of time talking to people. I've probably spent half again that much time in conversations with my clients, either planning the studies or sharing the results multiple times across different operating units of their companies. So I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people, a lot of different people, and it's caused me to think a lot about what makes conversations work or not. One thing I've clued into: we aren't very good at having conversations. I've noticed that people, both on the respondent side and the client side, are less and less engaged because they've become more distracted. I see evidence of that in Teams and Zoom calls when participants pause mid-sentence to look at their Apple Watch or glance at their phone to respond to a text, and then they lose their train of thought. I see a diminished ability to provide carefully thought out and detailed responses to questions and scenarios that are posed. I believe because folks are juggling so many competing demands for their time that it's hard for them to focus. Sometimes it's clear they didn't hear a question or comment in the first place because their mind was elsewhere. Attention spans have always been a concern, but our growing connectivity, somewhat ironically and even perversely, has created its own kind of isolation. Another concern: in too many of my meetings with clients, I've seen discussions take a bad turn because of internal infighting and an inability to work through differences. There's also sometimes an unwillingness to consider challenges to underlying assumptions. Feedback that's contrary to expectations or to promises that may have been made to the higher-ups in the organization may be swept under the rug or misrepresented. Too many conversations, in other words, have become competitions where the participants jockey to be winners. Now, I don't want you wondering if I'm being too sensitive or critical and therefore misreading what I've been seeing. So let me provide a little bit more about my background. Early in my career, prior to my stints at SMU and UNT, I was an economist with a research center, the John Gray Institute. The Gray Institute was funded in part by Texaco, Goodyear, and several other large companies which operate refineries and petrochemical plants along the Texas Gulf Coast. Funding also came from the labor unions, which represent the workers employed in those plants, pipe fitters, steel workers, and other building trades. The Gray Institute's primary role was to function as something of an honest broker between these two parties, companies and unions, in an effort to improve labor management relations, which historically had not been good. Plants along the Texas Gulf Coast for a long time had a lot of work stoppages and strike-related violence. In my 2 years at the Gray Institute, I interacted with plant management and with the labor union leaders and their members. And still later in my career, in my final position at American Airlines, I was directly involved in contract talks with the Allied Pilots Association. So I'm not a stranger to bad or even unfriendly discussions. Been around a lot of them. I'm also not the only one to notice the difficulty we have with engaging attentively and thoughtfully, or respectfully presenting arguments for or against this and that, acknowledging and accepting differences, and finding workarounds that, while not optimal, may still offer a least worst solution. I'm sure some of you, perhaps all of you, are aware of David Brooks. He's a political and cultural commentator and my favorite columnist for the New York Times. He's cautioned that our society increasingly lacks the two things that are the foundation of civil conversation: empathy, the patience and willingness to pay attention and actually listen to others with an open mind, and the ability to, as he puts it, argue well. That is, to make one's points without drawing a line in the sand or resorting to dismissiveness or condescension when challenged. Addressing this problem poses a big challenge, and I believe the best approach is to set a good example by setting standards for yourself in terms of how you engage with people. Think of this as an application of the butterfly effect, if you will. The idea that a small improvement can lead to more widespread improvement down the road. The small improvement I have in mind is putting more effort into how we relate to colleagues, clients, and others in our orbit. To that end, I encourage you to be more deliberate about being attentive, empathetic, and, as Brooks puts it, arguing well. Make your points respectfully and in a measured way, and be willing sometimes to politely agree to disagree with people. I know from my experience that this approach works, and in the few minutes I have left, I'll offer an example by once again referring to my earlier career experience at the Gray Institute. Our staff at the Institute was a very eclectic mix, an unstable compound, to use a chemical metaphor. We had PhDs representing a wide range of disciplines: ecology, economics, geography, oceanography, petroleum engineering, and so on. We had a retired Firestone plant manager with a background in chemical engineering, as well as a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Labor for Labor Management Relations, who would also run the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. Several former union leaders were on the team, along with a few folks who had experience with port and regulatory authorities. The Institute's leader had previously been executive director of Oak Ridge Associated Universities and was a polar scientist who had also been affiliated with the U.S. Army's Cold Regions Research and Engineering Laboratory, Dartmouth College, and the National Science Foundation. I'll add that he was also a friend of Robert Rutford, a name that should be familiar to all of you, since Rutford was UTD's second president and had that role when I was a doctoral student here. With respect to relating well to people of all kinds and arguing well, one member of our team in particular stood out, and he became a mentor and good friend to me. He was the least educated person in our crowd. He hadn't even completed high school. He left his family's farm in rural East Texas and sought work in Houston. He found a job sacking raw rubber pellets at the Goodyear plant located near the Houston Ship Channel. While employed there, he joined the International Union of Operating Engineers, one of the several labor unions representing Goodyear workers. And after a few years, he became an organizer for his union and also began moving up the leadership ladder. He eventually became a senior figure in the Texas AFL-CIO. He also had a lot of success cultivating relationships with Texas political leadership. And he was appointed by the governor to a select committee that was charged with reviewing certain provisions of the Texas Constitution. He was a longtime member of both the ACLU and NAACP, and he participated in several marches with Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers. Now, this guy was immense. He was very large, about 6'5", very burly and muscular, had a big brushy handlebar mustache. And his size is probably why he got that job at the Goodyear plant, because tossing around 60-pound sacks of rubber for 8 hours a day is very physical work. At first impression, he was the stereotypical rough-edged, bruised-knuckle union member. And yet, he did not fit that stereotype at all. He wasn't loud, he wasn't profane, he wasn't pushy or intimidating, though he probably could have used those tools really effectively if he had been inclined. Instead, he was a terrific listener, very good at putting people at ease, very good at detaching himself from assumptions and preconceived ideas. He never argued, but instead asked a lot of thoughtful questions and posited what-if scenarios rather than his own opinions. No matter the audience, union members, senior business executives, government officials and politicians, the press, no matter the setting, no matter the mood in the room, he was the best I've ever been around with regard to listening carefully to people and reasoning his way through discussions with them. While these conversations didn't always end in agreement or even cooperation, they also never ended in a wide divide between winners and losers that would foreclose the possibility of any future discussion. He never let a conversation become a competition. Some of this was undoubtedly an innate talent, but I observed him enough to recognize that there was a method to how he operated. He was always deliberate, studied, and measured, which I know required a lot of patience and effort on his part. He was in many ways the embodiment of Brooks' ideals of attentive engagement and arguing well. And as a side note, when I was at SMU, a colleague and friend, he was an associate dean who also taught an executive MBA course in organizational leadership, and I brought this former union leader to Dallas to speak to his executive MBA class. As you might expect, when I introduced him, much in the same way I just described him to you a few minutes ago, not even a high school education and so on, he was greeted with silence and pretty stony, even icy looks, as if the mid-level managers in the room working on their executive MBAs were thinking, how dare a union person set foot in the Cox School of Business. Once he got rolling, though, the mood lightened, and those students not only benefited by hearing from someone with his background, but actually enjoyed the evening and got exposed to a different way of thinking about how organizations operate and are led. So as you move forward in your careers, I hope you will be as deliberate and measured when you interact with your colleagues, or anyone for that matter. I hope you will internalize the importance of being engaged and empathetic, and will practice arguing well, particularly when conversations risk becoming contentious. Don't let your ego or your smarts or your PhD cause you to give in to the temptation to double down. Instead, listen more than you talk, and remind yourself that it's a conversation and not a competition, and that it's possible and even okay to disagree, remain cordial, and perhaps even continue the discussion after both parties have had a chance to think through things a little bit. In other words, be more conscious of how you talk. Think about what can make you a more effective conversationalist. It will help you as much as anything else you do in your career. So with that, congratulations on your accomplishment, and thanks also for giving me this opportunity to be part of your ceremony. It's been a privilege, and my best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gross. That was a fantastic speech. And thank you to Dean Holmes for bringing Harold back to campus. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Teresa Towner to the podium. Dr. Towner is our orator for today's ceremony, and will ask the graduate council, representative from each school, to come forward and introduce their doctoral candidates and the Hooding professors, after a few words about the history of regalia. Towner?
Before we begin the hooding ceremony itself, I'd like to tell you something about the regalia you're going to wear for the rest of your academic career. Doctoral robes have 3 velvet stripes on each sleeve and often feature the colors of the universities in which they were earned. The hood you will receive today has its origins in medieval Europe, when it was adopted for use by monks, clergy, and university students, all of whom used it not only as a covering for the head and shoulders, but also to hold alms and money. By the 5th century, it had come to be seen as a symbol of graduation and taken on distinctive colors and materials. The modern doctoral hood is about 4 feet long, with 5-inch velvet edging, which at this university is dark blue to signify the Doctor of Philosophy degree, or gold and yellow for the Doctor of Science. The hood you will shortly be wearing is lined with university colors of orange, green, and white. These were chosen by the university's first president and his assistant in 1971. The conferral of this hood will distinguish you among other scholars as a University of Texas at Dallas graduate. I now invite Dean Romer, Dean of the Harry W. Bass School of Arts, Humanities, and Technology, to come forward and assist the provost. Will Karen Minzer, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and Humanities, please come forward? Dr. Minzer will be hooded by Dr. Warren. I now invite Dr. Warren, Associate Dean, to call the next candidate.
Will Angelica Miriam Martinez Ochoa, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Arts, Technology, and Emerging Communication, please come forward? Dr. Martinez Ochoa will be hooded by Dr. Nguyen.
I now invite Dr. Owen, Dean of Behavioral and Brain Sciences, to come forward and assist the provost, and Dr. Hullab, Department Head, to call each candidate.
Will Paulina Anna Skolaskinska, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Cognition and Neuroscience, please come forward? Dr. Skolaskinska will be hooded by Dr. Basak. Will Yuko Tamaoki, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Cognition and Neuroscience, please come forward? Dr. Tamaoki will be hooded by Dr. Engineer.
I now invite Dr. Owen, Dean of Behavioral and Brain Sciences, to, oh, I'm sorry, we've done that. Excuse me. I now invite Dr. Holmes, whom we've just met, Dean of the School of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences, to come forward and assist the provost, and Dr. Kim, Associate Dean to College Candidate. So it turns out you EPS people are actually going to get your PhDs today in spite of me.
Will Lynn Ashley Morgan, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Economics, please come forward. Dr. Morgan will be hooded by Dr. So. Will John Michael Eaton, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, please come forward. Dr. Eaton will be hooded by Dr. Elliott. Will Victoria Elizabeth Morales, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Public Policy and Political Economy, please come forward. Dr. Morales will be hooded by Drs. Elliott and Haddington. Will Travis Andrew Green, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Public Affairs, please come forward. Dr. Green will be hooded by Drs. McCandless and Sabrowal.
I now invite Dr. Adams, Dean of the Eric Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science, to come forward and assist the provost, and Dr. Balsara, Vice Dean to College Candidate.
Will Tiffany Y. Leong, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Engineering, please come forward. Dr. Leong will be hooded by Dr. Chin. Will Xiaodi Li, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Engineering, please come forward. Dr. Li will be hooded by Dr. Khan. Will Nathan Alexander Beck, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Science, please come forward. Dr. Beck will be hooded by Dr. Iyer. Will Muhammad Hamide, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Electrical Engineering, please come forward. Dr. Hamide will be hooded by Dr. Ghasemi. Will Hazir Mahmoodi Nasrabadi, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Electrical Engineering, please come forward. Dr. Mahmoodi Nasrabadi will be hooded by Dr. Moimani. Will Hung Jui Guo, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Software Engineering, please come forward. Dr. Guo will be hooded by Dr. Prabhakaran. Congratulations, graduate, and wish you all the very best.
I now invite Dr. Prakul, Dean of the Naveen Jindal School of Management, to come forward and assist the Provost, and Dr. Jacob, Vice Dean, to call each candidate.
Will Shu Deng, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in International Management Studies, please come forward. Dr. Deng will be hooded by Dr. Shear and Park. Will Nan Guo, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in International Management Studies, please come forward. Dr. Guo will be hooded by Dr. Takeuchi. Will Yindong Mao, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Management Science, please come forward. Dr. Mao will be hooded by Dr. Zhao. Will C. Chi, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Management Science, please come forward. Dr. Shi will be hooded by Dr. Mehra.
I now invite Dr. Bewer, Associate Dean of the School of Natural Sciences and Mathematics, to come forward and assist the Provost, and Dr. Chowdhury, Associate Dean, to call each candidate.
Will Oladimezi Sunday Olaluwoye, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry, please come forward. Dr. Olaluwoye would be hooded by Dr. Darcy. Will Jianping Kao, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Mathematics, please come forward. Dr. Kao will be hooded by Dr. Gonzalez. Will Susmita Sinha Roy, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Mathematics, please come forward? Dr. Sinha Roy will be hooded by Dr. Dabkowski. Will Adida Mola Saidi Soladogun, certified candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Molecular and Cell Biology, please come forward? Dr. Soladogun will be hooded by Dr. Gonzalez.
You guys look good. It's so much better to wear that hood than it is to carry it around, isn't it? Isn't that great? I remember when I put mine on, I thought, I really get to wear this? I mean, it almost made the dissertation worthwhile, right? I was watching your faces when you were first asked to applaud the people who helped you get here, because you know you didn't get here alone. And so whether your friends are, and your families, your colleagues, your running buddies, the people you used to play pool with, whoever they are who helped you get down this road and sit where you're sitting and earn what you've earned, please, now that you have your hood on and we can't take it away from you, stand up, face them, think about them if they're not here, and give them the round of applause they really deserve. Thanks. Thank you. You can never really applaud them too much, can you? With the agreement of the Faculty Senate and all of the other faculty members it's my honor to represent here today, it is my honor and great privilege to join Dr. Benson in welcoming all of you to the community of scholars. Congratulations.
As we conclude this joyous occasion, I repeat my heartfelt congratulations to our newest doctoral recipients in this highly significant achievement. One of the greatest rewards as a graduate dean is awarding the new doctorates with their colorful hoods. You earn the privilege to wear the hood and academic regalia at all future occasions, and doing so will represent UT Dallas with distinction. I mentioned this before, my colleagues have heard me. I wear it around home every once in a while to see if I get respect. Doesn't work, but you can try it and see if that works. You are now a permanent part of UT Dallas. Stay in touch and continue sharing your talents and accomplishments so we can continue to rejoice with your future successes. Speaking of rejoicing, it's wonderful, as Dr. Towner said, that your family and your friends are here in this doctoral hooding ceremony. Your accomplishment today is truly a joint effort, and you could not have succeeded without their encouragement, sacrifices, in supporting your success. As we're expressing appreciation, I must finish by expressing mine to those who brought this ceremony together, including the stage party, staff members from my office, and more especially Special Events Coordinator Lira Fortin, which is always close by, and our wonderful readers, Stephanie Akers, Bradley Samore, and Allison Nepotnik. I see them over there. They read each and one of your, and helped format each and one of your dissertations, some of them multiple times, by the way, and I know your name, so. I ask that the audience remain seated. At first, the stage party, and then the newly minted doctorates and their supervisors process out. The audience can join to continue the celebration in the lobby for a small reception and a welcome to the alumni community. Again, my wholehearted congratulations to each and every one of you.